Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Dexter. This is their part number DB1000 DCT is what this is. This is a double cylinder grade 1 deadbolt. Pretty capable deadbolt in the sense that it is economical. It is grade 1, which is the highest standard or certification given to hardware. In fact, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Grade 1 is 1,000,000 cycles, grade 2 is 500,000 cycles, and grade 3 is 250,000 cycles. I've heard different values used for each of those. I believe the values I've quoted are the most current values, or the actual current values. So the price that you pay for this deadbolt at grade 1, if you're comparing grade 1 to grade 1 locks, you could spend a lot more money and you are still only getting a grade 1 lock. So pound for pound, and this is heavy, by the way. It weighs about 2.6 pounds, believe it or not. That's awfully heavy for a deadbolt. There's a lot of, because it's double cylinder, there's additional material. The solid material underneath the escutcheon or rose or scalp collars that cover that material to give it the finished sort of look. This is going to be a double cylinder deadbolt, which means you have a key on both sides. So deadbolts come in different functions. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's just do a quick visual tour of the deadbolt, and we'll talk about where you're going to use it. Always a problem installing deadbolts too, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Meaning that you can't get the lock to operate correctly with the key, is the bottom line. So you can have a couple of escutcheons, reinforcements, okay? They are both comprised of this zinc dichromate. I'm quite sure that it's just a zinc-based material. It's heavy, which is what conspires to give the lock its weight. It is conical shaped, and that is to help resist attack by putting a wrench on here. It's an attractive looking lock in the sense that there's nothing offensive about it. It's a common typical looking sort of deadbolt, albeit I would argue that it's a little it's a one size fits all sort of deadbolt. You may not want a deadbolt that is so large and with such great projection on the door, although that is a hallmark of quite heavy-duty deadbolts. If you see deadbolts from manufacturers who focus on protected, patented, restricted keyways, you'll see that they've got a lot of meat on the outside of the door to protect that cylinder, and that's where that's coming from. You are definitely protecting the cylinder in that regard from a physical standpoint. The other side of protecting the cylinder is the fact that this is just a 6-pin Schlage C Keyway, Dexter being a sister company to Schlage nowadays. And in the world of restricted, patented, protected keyways and key blanks, there's nothing special about this. It's probably the second most common keyway in North America, or at least in the United States. Well, probably North America. So these can be duplicated quite simply. And means of bypass would not be difficult by a talented locksmith. So in one sense, they give you all this 2.6 pounds worth of deadbolt with this zinc dichromate, but then they throw into it just a garden variety cylinder, which is fine. Someone wants to resist attack with a crowbar or a pipe wrench. They're not concerned about the stealthy, trained individual who might attempt a surreptitious.
I couldn't hear what you said.
A surreptitious means of bypass. So you'll get these two heavy outside escutcheons. Okay, whoop. That scalp plate I had mentioned earlier. That's just a decorative cover that will give it its finish. Put those aside. Obviously, interior and exterior cylinders, and they are here. They are not the same. The interior will have holes for the screws. The exterior will have tapped holes to receive those screws. Other than that, they're basically the same. They are most definitely the same cylinder. They have a different color on the exterior tailpiece. I don't know if that's important I don't believe it is. We'll discover if it is, because I'll put the lock together just to demonstrate how it works. You've got a adjustable backset. This is going to work in locks that are either 2 3/8 or 2 3/4 backset, and that would be the 2 common sizes. There are other backsets that exist. The next one most commonly in a deadbolt would be 5-inch. There is no 5-inch option for this. And then there is another backset that's 2-inch. Dexter doesn't offer a 2-inch backset, but those locks do exist. Okay, that will be a hardened steel rod inside of here to prevent cutting. Okay. Typical 2 1/4. That's an 1 1/8 wide faceplate, 1-inch projection on the bolt. Again, 2 3/8, 2 3/4. Where will you bump into those? 2 3/8 you'll probably bump into in a residential application, especially a residential application from a door that's from the 80s, 70s, 60s, things of that, time frames of that nature. But modern stuff is 2 3/4. You're going to get a couple of Schlage, as I said earlier, 6-pin original look-alike style bow on the key blanks. The direct code or the bitting is on there. That's literally what the pins are. That is also less desirable when it comes to keeping security over the lock. If you hand someone your key and they can see that, okay, it doesn't take a lot of research online to find out, a lot more about that key. Well, there's a reinforcing plate, a mounting plate that you're going to need. We'll demonstrate that in a moment. You are going to get your strike. That's 2 3/4 tall. Your strike reinforcer, that will go behind there. The strike reinforcer is going to feature 2 screws that will sink into the wood stud behind, and this hole here and this hole here. When we get to the installation instructions, we'll go over that. You're going to have your your 2 screws to hold it all together. You're going to have your 4 screws, 2 for the strike, 2 for the latch. Your dust box that will go underneath or behind the strike reinforcer. The 2 shorter screws, I'm not sure what these are for. I have no idea. We'll see if we can discover what these 2 shorter screws are for. The installation instructions, which I've not looked at yet, and it's because they're kind of all the same. So when you look at a deadbolt like this, you'll say, yeah, I've installed that. I know how those go together. But that explains why I don't know what those 2 shorter screws are for. So now let's switch to talking about where you're going to use this, and then we'll get into testing the function of the lock. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Where will you use this lock? Pretty much anywhere. Residential application, commercial application, very likely. But you'll use it in those instances when you are permitted to have a double cylinder deadbolt. Most occupancy types, if you were to look in NFPA 101, would not permit a double cylinder deadbolt on the inside. And I've taken code classes, I've studied code, or the standards that lead to them becoming, those excerpts becoming code. I believe it's a residential application that has 3 or less occupants can have a double cylinder deadbolt. I think technically is the only time that you can use this. If someone's talking about a double cylinder deadbolt, you'll certainly have a locksmith somewhere saying, you can't use that, that's against code. It technically probably is. Not all code. I do believe that 3 occupancy or less in a residential application, a single dwelling, can have it. But there will be practical times when a double cylinder deadbolt makes sense for the individual. The one that everyone thinks of is, well, I've got glass side lights. Break the glass or reach in, unlock the lock. Absolutely. Does that happen? Sure, of course it does. Another application that people don't think of immediately but comes to mind is when a young family with toddlers, and now they're mobile. They're not just crawling anymore, now they're mobile. It's very common to have levers on doors rather than knobs. Well, the hand strength of a 3-year-old is probably insufficient to, well, maybe, who knows, but to turn a knob is going to be different than just hanging on a lever. You have that single cylinder deadbolt not thrown, and I just hang, the 3-year-old hangs on the weight of the door with their body weight. They can get the door open. They certainly can't reach the deadbolt, nor have any concept of how it works. That's a real concern, and that is a real thing, that is a real concern, an occurrence that people call occasionally wanting to safeguard against. In that instance, you know, having a double cylinder there is, you know, if it's locked, it's gonna solve that problem. You could also, there are also deadbolts, and it's not Dexter, but that will give you a double cylinder application that can have a captive thumb turn, meaning you can have a double cylinder, but you can stick a key into it that's got a special provision that you can then remove the key with a special tool when you want to make sure that no one can unlock that from the inside without that special key. The concept of that is vacation. Okay, so you could have a double cylinder deadbolt. You've got the captive key in there all the time. It always works and turns until you go on vacation. Special tool, captive key comes out. Now that's locked. When you leave, pull the door closed, you lock it. Now you've got double cylinder protection. So either of those instances, but the keeping of the toddler from going through the opening also occurs because it's not only a double cylinder deadbolt where you will bump into that. You might have a kitchen with a door that swings into the kitchen, but then 12 stairs going down to the basement. And they don't want to lever 3-year-old toddler child weight pulling the door open and then getting down those stairs, either, you know, safely or not. And a way to solve that is, I think a deadbolt would be quite overkill. You could solve that with a very small surface bolt up at the top of the door. You know, and when the child is safe enough to go up and down stairs, it will be permanently a reminder of how joyous raising young children can be. Remember when you were so small we had to make sure you didn't go downstairs? That's why that bolt is there. The adjustability of the bolt is very simple. The instructions, and I did peek at them, I was being a bit coy. They do show that they want you to throw the bolt, and then you're just going to twist the body. Okay, just twist the body is all they want you to do. Going from 2 3/4 to 2 3/8. It's that simple. Little detented area there in this perforated feature to the body of the latch bolt. The cylinders, again, just 6-pin Schlage C Keyway. Now, there's a very, very common occurrence that happens on deadbolts that people get mystified, myself included at one time. You would put the key in, throw the deadbolt, but when you bring the key back, the deadbolt comes back with you and it's unlocked. You can never get the bolt thrown and the key removed without unlocking the bolt. Simply stated, it's a problem or situation or condition where the tail piece is not timed correctly. I can insert this tail piece. That's a plus sign there, okay? I can insert this tail piece either vertically, we'll use the one that's a little brighter, either vertically or horizontally. I can install it either way. Only one way it's going to work right, though. That's the bottom line. So I guess horizontally. Let's put it in. I'm just going to fit that in there. Okay, you can see where I've got it fit in. Well, you won't see it there. I've got it in horizontally. I'm going to hold that together. I'm going to take my key. I'm going to insert it. I'm going to rotate it to throw the bolt. I'm going to bring the key back. Okay? And I can remove it. I can pull the key, pull the bolt back, remove the key. It works fine. Okay. Let's say that I guessed the other way, vertical. Let's just, you know, it's a 50-50 chance. Let's put it back together. We've got the cylinder back in. The tailpiece is now vertical. I put my key in. I throw the bolt. Okay. I retract the bolt. And that works just fine. I can throw it. I can retract it. Okay, no problem with that at all. However, there are actually two ways to put this in horizontally to go back to the first method. I can put it in horizontally like that or horizontally like that. Okay, so I put it in horizontally the first time and it worked fine. I'm going to rotate that 180 degrees and put it back in. Key is in. I'm going to retract the deadbolt. No problem. When I turn the key back, it throws that deadbolt again. I want to go, and I can remove the key. I want to come and unlock. I rotate it to unlock, but when I bring the key back to a position where I want to remove it, it throws the bolt back. So the cure for this is read the instructions and do it exactly the way they say, or just turn the tailpiece probably 180 degrees, and that solves it. The important part of that is you can put them together wrong. When you test the lock, and always test the lock before you're done, if it doesn't work right, your brain will say to yourself, something's not right here. This isn't working correctly. Then probably turn the tailpiece 180 degrees. Because it's a double cylinder, one side's going to go in horizontally, the other side's going to go in vertically, and that's how they will mate together and work just fine in the driver of the latch bolt. But test it to be sure before you move on. And we are clearly doing a visual tour of the lock now. Oh, that mounting plate is going to be necessary. Well, we'll talk about the mounting plate when we get the installation instructions. Then you're going to have your, I'm going to remove the tape that holds the dust box on. Okay. Okay, so we have, and I have figured out what those two small screws were for. The strike first, though. The dust box is really appropriate to have because when you have that all installed, it would be nice to not see the internal or interior wall construction. A hacked or chiseled or cut stud. That dust box is just meant to close off the back of that, so it has a nice clean sort of installation. A lot of people don't install these because they take more work to install. You have to clear out the area for the dust box. But if it was me, I would insist on it being there because I really don't want I don't want to see it, first of all. You can sense a draft that comes through if you put your hand there, in either when it's very hot or very cold. Plus, also, I don't want the particulate of the wall to creep through that hole into the living space. So I would encourage you to take time to install that. The strike reinforcer, after you've made room for this and the strike reinforcer, those two large screws, they're going to go through those two holes, and they're meant to sink into the stud. These are probably 3-inch long screws that are here. Almost 2 3/4, let's say, their effective length. And you're going to want to be sure that you pre-drill those. These look like they're on number 8. You want to make sure that you pre-drill the hole, pre-drill it straight, so that when you start to run this screw in, you make a positive, full, and complete run of the screw in until it's basically tight. I would back it to a point where you would tighten them at the very end by hand, the last revolution or so. But having those there is what will allow you to help prevent a kick-in attack. Absolutely increases the effectiveness of the deadbolt to resist being kicked in. When the bolt is that with the hardened steel rod is inserted in here, you know, the web of the steel itself will strengthen it, but the two screws holding it to the back-to-back studs would be the way to go. This is just a dress plate, really. And then for that, you'll have these two combination wood machine screws that will go in here just to hold it off. The other two screws, again, will be for the latch bolt. Put these little fasteners back into my dust box. The two long bolts are meant to hold everything together. And let's just show you how this will all install. I guess, you know, in our touching on of the installation instructions will be relatively brief because we're really demonstrating it now. This is the exterior side, okay? That will go through your hole. Your mounting plate is going to come in and sit like that. Sorry. Now I've got it right. Okay. Your mounting plate will come in and sit like that. Okay. What's going to happen is and you can't get this wrong because there's only one way that these go together, is the two shorter screws is what will hold the exterior housing itself onto the door. You don't actually need the cylinder. This bolts to the door separately using the two shorter screws there and there. Okay? That's now going to be installed onto the door. The cylinder is screwed or bolted, I suppose, separately to the door with these longer screws. And they are abnormally long. That's because I'm not showing it in context. Your interior escutcheon, your cylinder, okay, then your screws, your two long screws, will go through this preparation here back into the hole that's tapped in the cylinder itself. So you're not only attaching the exterior shroud to the door, but now you're bolting the cylinder itself to the door, through the door, in fact. So there are 4 bolts that are holding this all together. So if you were to try to attack this, you know, you're really just attacking the exterior trim. You're not stressing the cylinder, which is separate, but also through bolted through the door to the interior trim. So that's a nice feature, there's no doubt. The other thing that hobbles the security of the Deadbolt, other than the very open common keyway, is the fact that that's a number 2 Phillips. That's just easy to get off the door in that sense. And that will also hold the interior reinforcer on as well, those 2 longer bolts. Okay, so that covers all of the parts that we have in the box. I say now we switch to the screen view and let's look at the supporting documentation. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Here is the item that we are discussing. We have some images posted down below. Let's take a look at those now. There's the box, the contents of the box, breaking it down into smaller components, or groups, I should say. There's that mounting plate, obviously. These are the 2 holes that will hold, with the shorter screws, the outside escutcheon to the door. And then your through screws will go through here and here. They're going to go through the inside cylinder, through the latch bolt here and here, securing all that together. There's that exterior side, then a close-up view of the C Keyway profile, or the broaching in the cylinder plug. You can see that first pin tumbler there. The back side of the cylinders. Latch bolt. More images here. Profile of the latch bolt. This is set at 2 3/4. Not that it matters. Like you can, you know, you look at latch bolts enough, you can tell that that's 2 3/4. The rest of the components, and then your 2 keys, Dexter, the bitting, the direct bitting, that's what's called a direct code, 575534, and the Schlage original lookalike bow, that's here. All right, now we have some information in the extended description. Grade 1, that means it's been rated for 1 million cycles. Who knows how many cycles it would work? It could work to several million. That doesn't mean on the 1,000,001st the lock breaks. That's just been found to operate to that level, and that was it. This is UL listed 3 hour. If you have a fire-rated door, you'll certainly want to use a deadbolt that is rated as well. You can't have a product on a door that doesn't carry the same approval for the minimum rating of the door, even though a deadbolt isn't a piece of hardware that makes a door fire rated. If you're adding accessories to a fire rated door, generally they need to bear visual evidence of that. Not always, but they generally do. Okay. An example of not having to have a label on it would be a hinge, provided it's a steel or stainless steel ball bearing hinge. It doesn't have to be labeled. A kick plate would not have to be labeled, provided the kick plate does not currently exceed 16 inches installed from the bottom of the door. So if you had a kick plate that was 16 inch tall, as long as it was not greater than 16 inch from the bottom of the door, it wouldn't bear a label. It wouldn't need to, but otherwise it would, is the bottom line. This will work on 1 3/8 to 1 7/8 door thicknesses. This is a deadbolt rather than a latch. Adjustable. Strike is a flat strike. That's just, yeah, of course it's a flat strike. Which is 2 3/4 tall, which is the most common size for deadbolt strikes, but not all of them. Some of them are shorter at 2 1/4. Those are very residential 2 1/4 size bolts. 1 1/8 wide, that's a commercial size that you'll see there. And this is a double cylinder rather than it being a single cylinder or a cylinder one side only or a thumb turn one side only or a patio style deadbolt or a classroom style deadbolt or different types of deadbolts that exist. This happens to be one that has a key on both sides. This is going to work in a 2 1/8 inch hole only. That's not mentioned here, but it will be shown on the installation instructions. And what I mean by that is you can't install it into a door that has an 1 1/2 hole, or by drilling an 1 1/2 hole, you'll have to drill a larger 2 1/8, which is standard. But it is nice to have a lock that will go into an 1 1/2 diameter hole. Schlage does have, Dexter's sister company does have deadbolts that will fit into an 1 1/2 hole. 6-pin Schlage C, keyed differently. We can do any sort of keying on these that you like. Sold as each. When you buy one, we'll ship you one. Let's look at the product catalog first. Well, there's a product catalog, but first a cut sheet. The cut sheet just shows the summary of the DB1000 Grade 1 deadbolt. This we've discussed at length. They do make these that will take small format interchangeable cores, 6 or 7 pin. That's historically known as the best type core. So if you had to run small format cores into a Dexter deadbolt, you can. Shows the DCT are double cylinder, satin chrome and oil rubbed, then satin with a standard cylinder, then satin chrome and oil rubbed in a small format prep. Cores are not included. You'd have to order those separately. Only 2 finishes, satin chrome and oil rubbed. Then there is a link to the document called Product Catalog that will give you an overview of all Dexter commercial products, locks, closers, probably exit devices would be my guess. So lock sets, deadbolts, as we predicted, surface closers, different grades, and then of course exit devices as well, and that's everything. Okay, so the name Dexter, and the name Dexter is now associated with commercial hardware that you'll be able to do decent quality imported builder's hardware, lock sets, deadbolts, exit devices, and door closers. Now the installation instructions. We won't go too forensically deep into this, but let's give it an honest review. Tools you're going to need. So first of all, of these 2 pages, you only need to pay attention to 1/3 of it, assuming you're going to read this in one language. Okay, so French maybe, Spanish. I think that's French. So mark the door. So step 1 of that is going to be mark your door, locate where you want the deadbolt. Mark the center line, stand so the door swings towards you, align template on center line, and fold the template as shown. Template is down here at the top of page 2. I guess let's look at it now. So they're saying stand towards the door so that it swings towards you. That's important because Why is that important? That is important because I'm assuming that the template has been designed in such a way to account for the bevel that you might have on a door. What I have here are 4 door edges: square, radiused, rabbited, beveled. 2 3/8 or 2 3/4 from here to here is the same as measured from here to here. 2 3/4 from here to here is not the same as measured from here to here because of that bevel. Bevel will affect the dimension because backset is defined as the center of the thickness of the door to the backset center. So they're telling you to measure on the pull side, which would be, if the door is beveled, the high side of the door. And there's clearly enough tolerance on the lock to account for the extreme small dimension that you'd be off from half of the door thickness to here. The bevel is defined as 1/8 of an inch bevel for every 2 inches in thickness. So this would be 1/8 of an inch here if the door was 2 inch thick. So it's going to be 1 3/4 probably. So half of, 1/8 of an inch minus 1/4 inch divided by 2, the amount that's going to be off will be very slight. But they're telling you to stand on the pull side of the door, which would be the large side of the door. So they're not telling us why they want us to do that, but that would be certainly why they want us to do that if there was a reason. They might just have drawn it this way and said this is how you'll do it, rather than showing it the other way. This video won't go into how to prep the door, but you're going to drill just to go through it quickly. Once you have the hole marked wherever you're going to locate it, whatever dimension you're going to locate it at, I would suggest measuring the top of the door to your deadbolt. Of common dimension in commercial is 48 inch from the finished floor to the center line of the deadbolt. Put it wherever you need it to be. Follow codes and guidelines. Mark your horizontal center line in pencil. Then mark your 2 3/4 or 2 3/8 backset. Mark the center of the thickness of the door. You'll drill your 2 1/8 inch hole here. Once that's crossbores through the door, you'll drill a 1 inch hole in the edge of the door. It does have to be 2 1/8. The next thing you'll do would be to mortise out for your latch bolt and get that installed. Using the faceplate as a pattern for the mortise, they're saying basically put the latch bolt on the edge of the door and trace it and then chisel it. You'd probably want to use a router for doing that. If it's a drive-in latch, you'll tap that in. Then your strike, chisel outline for plastic strike box. Here, up on the next page. Basically, what they're saying is, take stock of what you have, measure it, translate those dimensions to the jamb or the other door if you have a pair of doors, and make it all fit, is the bottom line. Okay? So, chisel outline for plastic strike box with a 1 3/16 deep, 1 9/16 long, 1 inch wide chisel, strike, basically mortise it. Install the base strike plate and plastic strike box on door jamb by mounting 2 long screws. So the strike box will go in first, as they show here. What's called also a dust box, by the way. Then your strike reinforcer, and you'll be sure to pre-drill those holes as I said earlier. And then your screws will also need to be pre-drilled to hold the strike on. And they'll go through these holes here. Step 5 talks about actually, once the latch bolt is attached to the door, you're going to want to put it all together, and you're going to be absolutely mindful to test that operation. I found that horizontal on the inside cylinder turned in a counterclockwise direction is how I needed it to work based on the hand of my door, which was being demonstrated as left hand or right hand reverse. Just make sure it works, and they don't address it at all. what happens if it doesn't work correctly. And we do have, and I will show you, there is a video on YouTube, and I will pull it up. That I made because it is such a common problem for people to have. And I'm just pulling the deadbolt up now. Here it is. My deadbolt will close with the key, but when locked, the etc., etc. Only way to remove the key is to open the deadbolt. So this is where I discuss that, and it saved a lot of people a lot of time and trouble. So you can go deeper into that entire conversation if you needed to. So we will leave there. Test it. You have your template. If it's a double, cylinder or single cylinder, the installation will change only by the fact that this is the diagram on the bottom of page 2. Apparently they do address it. The exterior is to be horizontal. The interior is to be vertical. Install cylinder per 0.5 for a single. But they don't talk about for a double cylinder. They show it horizontally on the exterior, but again, you can install that. Let's take a look, actually. Yeah, you know what's really great about this is they've solved the problem, actually. The exterior tailpiece cannot be installed horizontally in 2 ways. It can only be installed horizontally in 1 way. So that will prevent you basically from running afoul of the problem. Whereas the interior can only be installed vertically in 1 orientation. So very brilliant on the factory. I will recall that. I'll remember that. And I'll show you that quickly. So as long as the exterior, and you know the exterior because it doesn't have the holes for the screws, is horizontal, you won't have any timing problem at all. And I have always found double cylinder deadbolts are easy to not get wrong in that regard. Adjusting the latch, which we demonstrated earlier. Rotate and then pull, or rotate and push. If you had a different faceplate option, you would pry the faceplate off. They do make a radius corner faceplate, obviously, and then a drive-in style that you can put on there as well. This lock doesn't have any of those features. It would need to be specified as such, and I don't see in the catalog where they even refer to these alternative latch face preparations. Okay. Now, there is a link below this video here to the manufacturer's page. When you click on that, you can pull up not only all of the Dexter products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as seen there, but also a link to the full line catalog, and that is the product brochure that we just took a dive into or scrolled through a moment ago. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. And just to wrap up, I don't know if they called one tailpiece black and the other gold colored, but the exterior, they wanted horizontally. Well, I can't install it horizontally in any orientation other than this orientation. I can't rotate it far enough, so that solves that problem. Conversely, on the inside, I can't rotate it far enough to flip that tailpiece completely over. So they've solved the problem. Okay, and the only way to put it together wrong, really, is to put it together backwards. And then it could potentially not work right, I suppose. So the one that you can get horizontal in either direction, that's the one that goes vertical, is the bottom line. The one that can be vertical in either direction is installed horizontally only. That prevents it. Anyway, we have covered that adequately. The name Dexter is under the Allegiant umbrella, and other companies other that umbrella would be Schlage and LCN, Von Duprin, Glenn Johnson, Zero, Ives, Monarch, Dormatic, Falcon, and others. Dexter is probably going to have the same sort of customer technical support that Schlage does, which means it is exceptional technical support, is the bottom line. Any questions on the DB1000 in a DCT derivative or any other Dexter product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.